Warfighter is a new offer by DVG Games. So this is a war game of man-to-man tactical combat set in the present day. It is a game that can be played cooperatively with a group of players playing against the AI of the board. The enemies here are led by a deck of cards that represents the actions of the enemies, or the game can be perfectly played in solitaire mode with a single player leading a group of soldiers. In this game, the player or players control American soldiers that are traveling around the world to accomplish various types of missions in South America, in South American jungles against drug cartels, or in the Middle East against groups of insurgents or against Middle Eastern military forces. A lot of things that I want to say about this design, so without further ado, let's take a closer look and see how Warfighter plays. This is the board of the game, which is printed on glossy coated paper. It is pretty shiny, so I couldn't figure out a way to avoid some glare. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna have a quick general look at the map to get a sense of how it works, and then we're going to move closer to the map so that we avoid being blinded by the returning light. The main feature on the map is this track here. Your soldiers will start from here, where you place the mission card, the initial card of the game, and then your soldiers will build and explore a path of cards along this track in order to reach a mission card that will be somewhere on the track. The soldiers need to get there and to accomplish the mission described on the mission card. You have a mission timer that you use to record the number of turns that you still have available to complete the mission. All missions are timed, and then you have some boxes here which are used as player rates. They give you information that you will need to remember during the game. Now, moving a little closer. Here we go. In the game, you will start each game by choosing a mission. There are two types of missions. Some are set in the jungle, some in the Middle East. We're going to look at the Middle Eastern ones. You choose a mission among the available ones, and the mission card tells the parameters of the mission that you're trying to accomplish, not the objective yet, but the mission tells you the number of resource points that you can spend to purchase skills, soldiers, weapons, and equipment, time, the number of turns that you have available to reach your objective and to accomplish the objective, where on this track you place the objective. In this case, you would place the objective card in the space numbered with number 6. And loadout. There may be a penalty in terms of loadout. That means in terms of the weight that your soldiers can carry. Once you choose your mission, you place the mission card there. Then you look at the available objective cards for the setting that you chose, in this case the Middle East, and you choose one such card. Suppose that we have decided to play an hostage rescue. The mission card we will place on the objective card you will place on the space indicated by the mission card, and it gives you some keywords that may affect game effects that take place in that location. It tells you what you're trying to do, and like other locations, and we'll see that better later, there is a cost to entry the location. The entrance cost is the number of cards that a soldier needs to pay from his hand in order to enter that location. Also, there is a table that is used to populate the location. When you're entering a location, you look at the number of resource points that your team has at that point. That tells you the number of hostiles points that are present in the location, and then you will draw cards from an hostiles deck until you meet or exceed that requirement. So the number simply indicates the number of hostiles points, which is a good indication of the number of hostiles that you will encounter and that you will have to fight in that location. You place your soldiers in that location. These are the miniatures that I use to keep track of your soldiers. I don't find them particularly attractive, and also they're not truly necessary. What you need for each soldier is a number to indicate which number represents that soldier. So you will place a number on the initial card. You can also place a miniature on it, but it's not necessary. And then you will place a corresponding number on the card of the soldier, him or herself. Because yes, you need to purchase your soldiers, you need to purchase everything. You have several decks of resources. A big resource, of course, is your soldiers. When you purchase a card, there is a cost here which you deduct from your resource points that are assigned to you by the mission card. And you have some types of soldiers. So there is a regular type of soldier, like this one, with no indication under the name, and then there are special types of soldiers, such as the non-playing soldier and the squad soldiers. Slightly different rules apply to them. The standard soldier is the one with no keywords, so we're going to have a look at those. Standard soldiers have a health value. I guess you imagine when the health value goes down to 0, the soldier is incapacitated. The health value also represents the maximum size of action cards, of action cards that the soldier can hold. 6 health points, 6 action cards. Loadout indicates the weight that the soldier that can carry, may be modified by the mission. Unarmed, this is the combat value if a soldier is attacking unarmed. Cover value, the ability of the soldier to avoid being hit. And then there may be indications about the equipment that the soldier is carrying and special abilities that the soldier has. As you can see, there's a huge variety of soldiers with different abilities, different skills. The squad soldiers are a little easier because they don't come with equipment, they don't come with a hand of cards. They they bring extra action to the team without you having to worry about purchasing extra stuff for them. Because when you buy a regular soldier, then you also need to buy stuff for them. You need to buy weapons, very important. Weapon cards. You simply purchase cards, and this is the cost of the card in terms of resource points. For many weapons, that cost is also the loadout value, which is the value that you subtract from the loadout that the soldier can carry. And in some cases, you may have cards where the resource cost is not the same as the loadout cost, but in many cases, they are the same. Weapons have a specific type of ammo that they use. Suppose that I purchase a soldier, I purchase the soldier here, and I decide to equip that soldier with this weapon. I place the weapon by him. Also, I take ammo. This weapon uses this ammo here, and it has, as you can see, 6 ammo counters on it at the beginning of the game. Then I take 6 such counters from here. The counter trait that you see here does not come with the game, I've added it. Counters are stacked in a little pile on the card, and ammo counters have 2 sides, a regular side and an empty side. So you place them in a little stack in that little box on the card. And then during the game, from time to time, you will need to reload your card. You will use your weapon, you will need to reload the weapon. And when that happens, when there is such a need, you will simply flip an ammo counter to its empty side to record the fact that you need to reload the weapon. You put it there, and you will need to spend an action to remove that empty counter so you see a usable one. You purchase weapons. You can also purchase skills to personalize, customize your soldiers. Skills give you a lot of different things: cross-training, ghost ability, shooter, leadership, focus, hunter, operator, evasion, ton of stuff, and the effects and advantages are simply described at the bottom of the card. Again, there is a resource, cost to pay, and equipment cards, same as above. Resource cost, which also is a loadout cost. Skills, of course, don't weigh anything. And each card has a description of what it does. Some cards also, when you get them, you will place a number of markers on them that represents the number of specimens of that type that you have, the number of copies that you have. So I may carry several flashbangs and I place a marker here. Each time I use one, I remove a marker from the card. Again, a lot of different stuff, from smoke grenades, scopes, radios, GPS, canteens, a lot of stuff. So you equip your soldiers, buy them skills, make them strong, make them agile, whatever you want to make them, give them weapons, and then it is, give them equipment, and then it is time to go. After, however, they also receive a hand of action cards. This is a huge deck of action cards, but because it also includes cards from expansions, and it includes locations. For each location that you use, for example, depending is Middle Eastern or the jungle, you shuffle location cards in it. There's a specific set of location cards depending on the setting. Here I already shuffled in the cards for the Middle East. So the players will receive a hand of cards, each equal to the hand of their soldier, which is equal to the health, and you look at them. At the beginning, each player is looking for a location. In order to reach a location, you need to find it, which means you need to get a location card in your hand, and then once you have it in your hand, you can play. So if at the beginning of the game players have no locations in their initial hands, they need to spend actions to discard cards and to draw new cards until they find a location, and then, well, they can play it. Once you place a new location on the board, you need to populate it. As I said, you look at the hostiles table, and then you grab the hostile deck. In the Middle East, there are two types of hostiles that you may be fighting. The insurgents, for which you use this deck here, or the Middle Eastern military, for which you use this deck here. Suppose we use this one, then you draw cards and you look at this number here until the total of the numbers that you drew equals or exceeds the hostile number indicated here. For example, suppose that I need to reach 6 hostile points. I start drawing cards. I draw these ones. That's a total of 6. These are the cards that go in that location, and they represent the hostiles which are presently there. For each hostile, you also draw a counter from a cup, a counter with a number matching one of the soldiers in the action, and that indicates the soldier that particular hostile is trying to target. When it is your turn, then you can perform 2 actions. Each soldier has 2 actions. An action can be to move. You can move onto a new card, in which case you pay the entrance cost, which is a number of action cards equal to the entrance cost. Your soldier may have a movement advantage. For example, this soldier has a 1 that is deducted from the entrance cost. I'm trying to reach a place that has an entrance cost of 2. I have a 1, then I only need to pay for a single card. I discard that card. You can play an action card that requires to spend an action. Cards do not require to spend actions unless it says so in the description. If it says so, in order to play the card, you spend one of your 2 precious actions. You may spend an action to reload, as I said, in case your top ammo counter is empty, then you spend an action to remove that. You may spend an action to discard and draw. You do not discard and draw cards automatically. If you want new ones, you need to spend an action to get some. You may have been suppressed from the previous enemy turn, so there may be one or several suppression markers on your soldier. You spend an action to remove each such suppression markers, and you need to do so in order to be able to do other actions. And I kept for last, of course, the coolest actions of them all, which is to attack. When you attack, you choose the weapon that you're using to attack and a target. And the target needs to be within the range of the weapon. This weapon can fire at range 0, same location where the soldier is, or range 1. When you attack, you roll both a d10 and a d6. Now the game comes with these customized dice that are bullet-shaped, and some are d10 bullets and some are d6 bullets. Frankly, I am a little bit of a traditionalist, so I prefer to use the standard dice. So suppose I'm attacking that guy at range, say, 2. I roll the 2 dice, and there may be modifiers that I need to apply. Because of weapons, because of situation, conditions, skills, so a million different things. When you roll the dice, you are trying to beat both the cover value of the enemy and with the d6 and the kill value of your weapon with the d10. Suppose that I had rolled actually a 6 and a 9. Unmodified. I don't have any modifiers. This is pretty neat because you beat the cover or the kill value of your weapon by equaling or exceeding that value. With the 6, I beat that. With the 9, I beat that value. Then when you have success in both categories, both cover and kill value, you kill the opponent, then you place a kill marker there in that reticle, and you have killed the enemy. In that case, the card is removed. There are some cards with multiple reticles, so it takes more than a kill to remove the card. If you have been successful in only one of the 2 rolls, so say with the kill but not the cover, with the cover and not the kill, then you suppress the enemy, then you place a suppress marker. The enemy is still there, but at least will not be able to attack next time. Now, when you're firing, you can choose the number of d10s that you roll based on the fire mode. So you could choose, for example, to roll 1 die with a semi-attack or 3 dice with an auto-attack. You still only roll 1d10, 1d6, but you could roll up to 3 d10s here. However, no matter how many d10s you're rolling, you're still scoring only 1 hit. Even if you scored 3 hits with the 3 d10s, it's still simply 1 hit. It is only when you're using explosives that you will roll multiple d10s, and you can apply the multiple d10s to multiple reticles against the target to multiple targets. Otherwise, you're simply increasing your chances of getting a single hit. However, when you are rolling multiple dice, you're also increasing your chances of needing to reload, because if one or more of your d10 results are equal to or less than the reload value, then you need to reload your weapon. Again, the current counter that you are using turns to empty, and you need to spend an action to assess the next ammo counter. And I explained the possible results of the d10s, which are kill, suppress, or of course miss. If you missed both on the cover dice and on the kill die, well then too bad for you, nothing happens for the opponent. So soldiers can fire, resolve their attacks, resolve their actions, then it is time for the enemies to attack. And here you have a hostile turn aid. First reinforcement draw. For each location on the board that has a soldier, you look at the reinforced value. Then you draw a card from the hostile deck that you're using. That's the military, it's not the one we were talking about here. Where are the insurgents? I missed them. Somewhere around the table I have the insurgent deck. There we go. The insurgent, then you draw a card and you compare the enemy value to the reinforced value of the area for which you're drawing. If the value is equal to or less than the reinforced value, then you add the card to that location. These people show up at that location. Once you check if new reinforcements for the hostiles arrive, the hostiles that are within range, they also have a range of attack. They can't attack anywhere on the board. The hostiles that have a target within range, the target is assigned to them randomly, they will attack their target. When the hostiles attack, it works exactly like for you. You roll 2 dice. One is compared to your own cover value, and they're trying to beat that, and the other one is compared to the column that they have here. Now, then you may have hostiles that have multiple people on the card, in which case you roll on the column that applies to the number of hostiles that are still active. This is the card, then you roll on this. If one of them is killed or suppressed, then you roll on the one column. If they're both killed, then the card is gone. You roll 2 dice and it works exactly like when you're attacking them. If one of the 2 dice is a success and the other one isn't, you get a suppression. If they're both a success, then you look at the result here. If, and you may apply wounds, hits, misses, things like that. If they are both a miss, then good for you, that is a miss. So enemies that have a target within range will attack. The ones that did not attack because they're not in target, they're not in range, they'll move towards their target by 1 space. Then at that point, you remove suppressed counters on the enemies. You advance the mission timer, the turn is over. And it is back to the player's turns, which again will perform actions from this list. Attack, action, reload, discard and draw, move, remove, suppress. Some cards have lasting effects, but for the effect to stay there, for the card that you played to remain in play, and for you to benefit from that bonus, you need to pay retain costs. You continue like this turn after turn until either you reach the objective of the mission and you complete the objective of the mission, or all of your soldiers are incapacitated. In that case, well, I guess you guessed that, in that case you lose the game. Learning the game comes with at least 2 relatively small bumps along the road. One is that the manual is not as user-friendly as previous rulebooks by DVG games. The first pages of the manual have a lot of information, bits and pieces of information that do not feel like they fit together well. They just describe what each card does, what each part of each card does. It was not until I got to the turn sequence part of the rulebook that things started fitting together and I saw what things were for. So when you're reading the rulebook, I suggest taking a look at the turn sequence first, and then you read the initial parts of the book to get the particulars. Maybe that will make learning the game a little easier. Another thing is that once you know the rules, it is still not easy to put together an effective team the first couple of times that you play the game. There is a recommended pre-built team there. Maybe there could have been more, but you can start with the team that is suggested in the book, and then you customize that, you tweak things around, and you gradually move on to building your own team and different types of team depending on the mission that you want to accomplish. What is good is that you do have a lot of replay value in the resources that you have in the book, in the cards, with the characters, the equipment, the skills. Combine different soldiers with different equipment, with different skills, you will have very different game experience. You can tailor the team that you're going to use to the specific needs of a mission. I think that is great. But it makes learning how to play effectively at the beginning a little more challenging. Not nearly as much as it happened to me with other games by DVG. Hornet Leader Carrier Air Operations, which happens to be one of my favorite games of all time, so that had a hugely steep learning curve. I remember I played maybe 10 games before I started figuring out how to put together an effective team to play the game. Here it takes not as much. Also because the difficulty of the game can be scaled quite easily. The three groups of enemies that you're fighting against, cartels, Middle Eastern insurgents, and Middle Eastern military, are not born equal. The cartel are the easiest enemies to defeat. The insurgents, not so easy. The Middle Eastern military will murder you, so don't start by playing against them. So you start with the cartel, you use the pre-generated team, you change a couple of things. It makes it much easier to get into the game, to get started. At the beginning you will probably play decently, if not optimally, as opposed to other games in which at the beginning you will play disastrously and it takes a while before you can figure out how to play even decently. This is not to discourage you, because actually it is not that hard to learn the game. Just take it step by step. And once you get to learn it, once you become familiar, once you learn how to play it at least decently, then you will realize that this is a pretty linear, pretty straightforward game with no particular hidden complexity. Just a couple of concepts to wrap your mind around at the beginning. Actually, there's a lot that has been hardwired into the design. It has been factored in the cards, in the tables. A lot of work has been done by the designer in putting pretty detailed combat tables on the cards. So you simply need to roll the die, apply the modifiers, look at the combat table for that specific insurgent, for that enemy, and the combat table is right there, and you resolve the action. Another enemy, you look at the combat table of that enemy. You don't have to go and look around for the tables in the player rates. The designer has placed them right there on the card that represents the enemy, and you have similar information on the card representing the soldier, the card representing the weapon that you're using, and so on and so forth. So actually, once you get started, everything is there. Components are their own play rates. I think that is great, because that really then facilitates the immersion in the design. The experience is pretty immersive. It's pretty intense and tense, which you really need in a game of this type, which feels like an action movie at times. The action is definitely intense. You have the timer that is ticking constantly, and you have to find the balance between spending your time to defeat enemies and pushing forward to go towards the objectives. Sometimes there are situations in which you will try to leave some enemies behind and some soldiers fighting against those. But advancing fast depletes your resources because you need to spend action cards. So if you advance fast, then a lot of enemies show up in the new location. You don't have many cards to fight against them. And that's bad. You spend actions to refill your hand, and maybe by the time your hand is full and your guns are reloaded, you have been blown up by RPG teams of the enemies. Totally happened to me in a game today. So timing is of the essence, and learning how to use timing effectively, making mistakes and figuring out ways of playing the game better is part of the game. Learning how to use the action cards effectively, that's another huge element of the game. Big challenge, big part of the fun factor. Also because these cards are so flexible. You can use them for their printed effects, and you do need those. Without the cards, the dice and the combat tables in many cases kind of look like they're stacked against you. You really need to use action cards to increase your chances to roll successfully, to get good modifiers, and to accomplish whatever it is that you're trying to do. But those cards are very flexible resources, because if you're not using them for the printed effects to get modifiers to your die rolls, for example, you can spend them for a lot of other things. For example, to pay for entrance costs, to pay for retaining costs, a lot of things like that. You gain experience points by defeating enemies, insurgents, and you can spend those also as resources to play certain cards to generate certain types of effects during the game. The effects go together well. The effects give you a ton of choices. In a sense, you feel like your choices are quote unquote limited. You have a limited list of actions. You can move, play an action card, attack. Other actions that you are taking, such as reload or eliminate a suppress mark, are pretty much mandatory by the system. When it comes to strategy and decisions that you're making, it's pretty much move and or attack and or play cards and which ones. But the way in which you can do that, the way in which that can be nuanced into many different courses of actions, courses of events, different ways of playing the game, of dealing with the enemies, figuring out priorities of actions, then that simple range of options turns into a very rich, very vivid, very exciting situation. Warfighter, I love it. I love games that drip with theme, that burst with theme. This is one such game. On top of that, it plays smoothly once you get to learn the design. It plays smoothly. The mechanics are kind of like become part of the background. The story emerges. The theme is brought to the fore, becomes really the protagonist of the event of playing the game. So that's what I like in a war game, that's what I like in a game in general, and that is why I like Warfighter so much, because I really, really do. This is an excellent game.